I still remember the exact words. She just handles the pretty pictures. I'm the one who built this company. Derek said it with a casual shrug, like he was stating a fact as simple as the weather. We were sitting in his startup's conference room, surrounded by potential investors in their pressed suits and polished shoes, and he gestured toward me the way you'd point out office furniture. Mia helps with the visuals, sure, but let's be real, the strategy, the vision, the actual work that matters? That's all me. So I stopped. Not dramatically. Not with a door slam or a tearful speech. I just stopped. That afternoon, while he was still riding the high of his investor pitch, still believing he'd impress those suits with his charisma and swagger, I went home to the apartment we shared and began the quietest exit of my life. But I should back up. You need to understand how we got there. Derek and I had been together for 4 years. We met at a networking event when I was a senior creative lead at a mid-sized marketing firm and he was just another guy with a tech idea and a dream. Blockchain something. AI-powered something. I honestly don't even remember the original concept because it changed every few months. What I do remember is how his eyes lit up when he talked about it, how passionate he seemed, how he said he just needed the right partner to help bring his vision to life. You have such an incredible eye, he told me on our third date, showing me his terrible logo on a napkin. I know the tech inside and out, but I need someone who understands people, who can make this look legitimate, someone creative. I was flattered. Here was this ambitious, driven man who saw value in what I did. My ex before him had always made jokes about my job, calling it playing with colors or asking when I was going to get a real career. Derek was different. He appreciated me. Or so I thought. I started helping him on weekends. Just small things at first, cleaning up his pitch deck, choosing better fonts, suggesting color schemes that didn't look like a unicorn had vomited on his slides. But then it expanded. He needed a logo, a brand identity, a website, social media templates, investor materials, marketing copy, content strategy. Just until we get funded, he'd say, kissing my forehead. Once the money comes in, I'll hire a whole team. But right now, you're all I need. I believed him. I worked my full-time job during the week and spent every evening and weekend building his brand. I didn't charge him. We were partners, weren't we? When you love someone, when you believe in their dream, you support them. His app, the final concept, was some kind of networking platform for freelancers, launched 6 months after we started dating. It looked beautiful because I'd made it beautiful. Every pixel, every word, every social media post that generated buzz, that was me. I'd spent hundreds of hours I'd never get back. This is amazing, he'd said, pulling me into a hug after the launch party I'd also planned and coordinated. I couldn't have done this without you, but he could say that in private and mean something very different in public. The comments started small. At parties, when someone complimented the branding, he'd say, yeah, Mia helped with some of the design stuff. Helped. Like I'd made a suggestion over coffee. When his app got featured in a tech blog praising its clean, professional aesthetic, he posted about it on LinkedIn and thanked his amazing team, which at that point was him, one developer he'd hired, and me, who wasn't technically on payroll. Why didn't you tag me? I asked him that night. Oh babe, I didn't think you'd want to be associated with it professionally. Isn't there some conflict with your real job? My real job. The one that actually paid me. The one I was increasingly exhausted at because I was spending all my creative energy on his company. You could at least mention me, I said quietly. I just did. I said team. He kissed my cheek. You're being sensitive. Everyone who matters knows how much you do. But they didn't. And that was the point. 2 years in, his app had gained real traction. He'd brought on investors, small amounts, friends and family mostly, and hired 2 more developers and a part-time customer service person. The company had a real office now, a small space in a shared building downtown. I still worked for free, still handled every piece of external communication, every brand asset, every marketing campaign. Once we close this next funding round, he promised. Series A. That's when I'll make it official, bring you on board properly, give you equity, salary, everything. I was still waiting for Series A when the meeting happened. He'd asked me to come that day to help present. We'd been preparing for weeks for this investor group, a venture capital firm with serious money. I'd redesigned the entire pitch deck, created new mock-ups showing the app's evolution, even drafted the script for parts of his presentation. That morning, I'd gotten up at 5 to finalize everything. I made us both coffee, made sure his suit was pressed. I'd picked it up from the dry cleaner the day before and ran through the talking points with him one more time while he ate the breakfast I'd prepared. You're going to kill it, I told him, straightening his tie. We're going to kill it, he corrected. But there was something off in his tone. Something I couldn't quite place. The meeting started well. I sat to his right, laptop open, ready to advance slides when he needed them. The investors seemed engaged, asking good questions. Then one of them, a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and a sharper blazer, pointed to the screen. This is impressive branding, she said. Very cohesive, very professional. Who's running your marketing? I waited for Derek to gesture to me, to introduce me as his partner in this venture, to finally give credit where it was due. Instead, he laughed. Actually laughed. Well, that's kind of evolved, he said, leaning back in his chair with the confidence of someone who'd built everything himself. Early on, my girlfriend Mia helped out with some of the visual stuff. He waved his hand toward me like I was an afterthought. She just handles the pretty pictures. I'm the one who built this company. The strategy, the vision, the actual work that matters. That's all me. The pretty pictures. I felt something inside me crack. Not break that would come later, but crack, like ice on a lake when the temperature shifts. One of the other investors, a younger man, nodded. Smart to outsource the creative stuff. Keep the focus on the real business. Derek agreed enthusiastically. Exactly. I mean, design is important, sure. But anyone can make something look good with the right template these days. The real value is in the product, the code, the user acquisition strategy. That's where I spend my time. I sat there, my hands folded in my lap, my face carefully neutral, while he spent the next 45 minutes taking credit for work I'd done. The tagline they loved? Mine. The color psychology that made the brand feel trustworthy yet innovative? Mine. The entire content strategy that had grown their user base by 300%? Mine. When one investor specifically asked about the social media presence, Derek said, I've been really hands-on with that. It's all about authentic connection, you know? Meeting users where they are. I'd written every single post. He'd never written a single caption. The meeting ended with handshakes and promises to circle back. I closed my laptop quietly and followed Derek out of the conference room. That went great, he said, checking his phone as we walked to his car. I think they're really interested. You didn't mention me once, I said. My voice sounded strange to my own ears. Flat. Distant. What? He looked up, confused. You told them I handle the pretty pictures. Well, you do. You're great at that stuff. He said it like a compliment, like he was praising a child's finger painting. I built your entire brand, Derek. Every piece of marketing, every campaign, every word of copy. I've spent 3 years working for free. I never asked you to do that, he cut me off. You offered. You wanted to help. Because you said we were partners. We are partners. He unlocked the car. In our relationship. But the business? Babe, come on. You have your job. This is my company. I appreciate your help, I really do. But let's not pretend you're building anything here. You're supporting me. That's what partners do. Something in his tone, that casual dismissiveness, that absolute certainty that his work mattered and mine didn't, made the crack spread wider. You told them anyone can make something look good with a template. I was playing to the audience. Those guys don't care about design. They care about metrics and growth and revenue. I had to speak their language. By erasing me. He sighed, the kind of sigh you give when someone is being unreasonable. You're being dramatic. I said you helped. What more do you want? I looked at him, then really looked at him. At this man I'd spent years supporting, building up, believing in. And I realized he'd never seen me as an equal. I was a resource. A free service. Someone who handled the things he considered beneath him while he took all the credit and convinced himself he'd done it alone. Nothing, I said quietly. I don't want anything anymore. I didn't argue with him on the drive home. I didn't cry or yell or demand an apology. I just sat in the passenger seat, watching the city blur past the window, and made a decision. That night, while Derek celebrated with his developer friends at a bar, celebrating what, I don't know, since the investors hadn't committed to anything, I started packing. Not everything. Just enough. My clothes, my laptop, my external hard drives, the few personal items that mattered. I texted my best friend Jenna, "Can I stay with you for a while?" She responded in seconds, "Always." What happened? I'll explain when I get there. I left Derek a note on the kitchen counter. Short. Simple. I'm staying at a friend's place for a bit. Need some space to think. I didn't tell him which friend. I didn't tell him why, not really. Let him wonder. Let him think it was about the meeting. About his words. Let him think whatever he wanted. Because while he was thinking, I was planning. The next morning, I called in sick to my job. Then I opened my laptop and looked at 3 years of work. Every file, every asset, every piece of intellectual property I'd created for Derek's company. All of it was on my personal drives because he'd never set up a proper shared system. He'd never thought he needed to. I was just his girlfriend helping out. Why would he worry about file management? I made a copy of everything. Then I went through and removed my access to all his accounts. Social media, email marketing platforms, design software subscriptions I'd set up under my credit card, analytics dashboards, everything. I changed passwords on the tools I'd paid for. I didn't delete anything. I wasn't sabotaging him. I was just withdrawing my labor. Then I did something I'd been too afraid to do while I was with him. I looked at my own portfolio, my own skills, my own potential. And I started making phone calls. Derek didn't notice for 2 days. 2 entire days. I guess he was busy with whatever he considered real work. When he finally called, I was sitting in Jenna's spare room, creating a business plan. "Hey babe, where are you? I thought you'd be home by now." "I'm staying with Jenna for a while," I said calmly. "What? Why? Is this still about the meeting?" "I thought you were just being emotional." "Just being emotional. I need some space, Derek." "Space from what?" "We're fine." "You're being ridiculous." His tone was annoyed, not concerned. "When are you coming back? I need you to update the social media posts. The engagement's been dropping." Of course it had. I hadn't posted anything in 2 days. "I'm not doing that anymore," I said. Silence. "Then, what do you mean?" "I mean, I'm not doing your marketing anymore. I'm not handling your pretty pictures. You said it yourself, anyone can do it with a template. I'm sure you'll figure it out." "Mia, don't be childish. I need those posts up by tomorrow. We have a product update to announce." "Then you should announce it. I don't have time for this. Just send me the files and the schedule." "No." Another silence, longer this time. "No? You told investors I just help with visual stuff. That anyone can make things look good. So do it yourself. Or hire someone. Like you said, it's not real work anyway." "That's not. I didn't mean you're taking this out of context." "Am I? Because I heard you very clearly, Derek. And so did they." His voice shifted, trying a different tactic. Softer now. "Babe, I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings. You know I value what you do. I was just trying to seem competent in front of those investors. You understand, right? What I understand is that you've spent 3 years taking credit for my work while telling yourself you did everything alone. And I'm done." "Done with what?" "With us? Done being invisible. Done working for free. Done being treated like I'm less than you. I never said you were less than me. You didn't have to say it. You show me every single day." I took a breath. "I'm starting my own thing, Derek. My own business." "What business?" "You have a job." "Not anymore. I quit this morning." I had. I'd called my boss. Given my 2 weeks' notice. She'd been surprised but supportive. "I always knew you had this in you," she'd said. "You're going to be amazing." "You quit your job?" Derek's voice rose. "Are you insane? What are you going to do?" "I'm starting a branding and marketing agency. For startups and small businesses. Turns out I'm pretty good at making things look good." "Mia, be realistic. You can't just start a company because you're mad at me. You don't know how to run a business. Neither did you when you started. But I guess it's different when it's you, right? When you do it, it's vision. When I do it, it's childish. That's not. You need to think about this. What about money? What about health insurance? What about me actually getting paid for my work? What about me building something that's mine?" My voice was steady, calm. "I've already lined up 3 clients. Friends of friends who saw the work I did for you and want the same quality. Those are my contacts." "No, Derek. Those are people who reached out to me. Specifically me. Because they know who actually did the work. I could hear him breathing on the other end of the line. Processing. Panicking. When are you coming back? He asked finally. We need to talk about this face to face. I'm not coming back. I'll get my stuff when you're at the office. You're breaking up with me? I'm choosing myself. I hung up before he could respond. The calls started immediately. Texts, voicemails, emails. At first angry. You can't just abandon me like this, then pleading I need you, please let's just talk, then desperate, the investors are asking for updated materials and I don't know where anything is. I didn't respond to any of it. Jenna brought me wine that night and we sat on her couch while I told her everything. I should have left years ago, I said. You're leaving now, she replied. That's what matters. She was right. I was leaving. And more than that, I was beginning. My new business, I called it Bloom Creative, because I liked the idea of things growing, flourishing. Started small. Those 3 initial clients became 6 within a month. Small businesses, new startups, people who needed professional branding but couldn't afford big agency prices. I worked from Jenna's spare room, then from coffee shops, putting in 80-hour weeks that felt nothing like the unpaid labor I'd done for Derek because this was mine. Every client I landed, every positive testimonial, every project that exceeded expectations, it was validation. Proof that I hadn't been just helping with pretty pictures. I'd been doing real work. Valuable work. Work that people would pay significant money for. 3 months in, I hired my first contractor. A copywriter I'd known from my old job. She was brilliant and undervalued, just like I had been. 6 months in, I signed a lease on a small office space. Just 1 room, but it was mine. My name on the door. I didn't check on Derek's company. I didn't need to. But news travels in small industries, and I heard things. His social media had gone dormant. His app's rating had dropped because customer service messages weren't being answered professionally. Turns out I'd been handling those too. Drafting response templates he'd just copied and pasted. One of his developers had quit. Then, 8 months after I left, I got an email from the venture capital firm. The woman who'd been in that meeting. I hope this doesn't overstep, she wrote. But I've been following your new company. Very impressive growth. I'd love to grab coffee and discuss some of our portfolio companies who might need branding support. I stared at that email for a long time. This was the woman who'd watched Derek dismiss me, who'd nodded along when he said design wasn't real work. But she'd also been paying attention. We met the following week. Over coffee at an upscale cafe I definitely couldn't have afforded a year ago. She was direct. I'm going to be honest with you. When I saw you at Derek's presentation, I assumed you were just a supportive girlfriend. Pretty common in this world. But then I started seeing your work everywhere. And I realized everything impressive about his company, the brand, the voice, the market positioning, that all disappeared after you left. I sipped my coffee and said nothing. I pulled back our investment offer. She continued. The company's a mess. No consistent messaging, poor communication, declining user engagement. He's a decent developer, but he has no idea how to run a business. I suspect you were running it for him. I was supporting him, I said carefully. She smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. It was knowing, supporting. Right. Tell me about Bloom Creative. I did. I told her about my clients, my growth strategy, my vision for building an agency that specifically helped undervalued founders, women, minorities, people who had great products but didn't know how to tell their stories. I want to invest, she said when I finished. I blinked. In my company? $50,000 for 10% equity. I don't usually do seed stage investments this small, but I think you're undervalued. And I invest in people who prove me wrong about my first impressions. I took the investment, used it to hire 2 full-time employees and move into a bigger office. Within a year, Bloom Creative had 15 clients and a waiting list. Derek kept trying to reach out. Emails that I deleted without reading. LinkedIn connection requests I ignored. Once, he showed up at my new office. I don't know how he found the address. My assistant turned him away. Tell her I just want to talk, I heard him say through the door. Tell her I was wrong. Tell her I need her. She came back to my desk. Want me to call security? No, I said, looking at the contract I was reviewing. A 6-figure branding project for a startup that was already more successful than Derek's had ever been. Just tell him I'm busy. Because I was. Busy building something real. Something that was entirely mine. I ran into him once, months later, at a networking event I almost didn't attend. He looked thinner, older somehow. His startup had pivoted twice and was barely surviving on fumes and his original small investments. "Mia," he said, approaching me with a careful smile. "You look amazing. Thank you. I've been trying to reach you." "I know, I wanted to apologize. For everything. You were right. I didn't see how much you did, how much you mattered. I took you for granted." He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture that used to be endearing. Now it just looked tired. "I miss you. Not just your work, I miss you. Us." I looked at him and felt nothing. Not anger, not satisfaction, not even pity, just nothing. "I appreciate you saying that," I said. "I hope things work out for you, Derek." "Is that it?" He looked desperate now. "After everything, that's all you have to say? What else is there? You showed me exactly who you were and what you thought of me. I believed you, and I moved on." To what? To prove a point? To prove it to myself, I corrected gently, that I was never just someone who handled the pretty pictures. That my work had value. That I had value. "I know that now." "That's great." I cut him off. "I knew it then. That's the difference." I walked away before he could say anything else. I had a dinner meeting with a client. A big client. The kind of client Derek used to dream about landing. Later that night, sitting in my own apartment, a one-bedroom in a nice building that I paid for with money I'd earned, I thought about that moment in the conference room. The moment Derek had reduced 3 years of my work to pretty pictures. The moment I'd felt something crack. It had cracked. But it hadn't broken me. It had broken the illusion. The belief that making myself smaller would make someone else love me more. The hope that if I just kept giving, kept supporting, kept sacrificing, it would be recognized and valued. I'd been wrong. Not about my worth. About where I'd placed it. The pretty pictures were beautiful. And they mattered. And they were mine. And now, so was everything else. That's the thing about being invisible. Once you choose to be seen, there's no going back. And why would you want to? I didn't build my business for revenge. I built it for survival. For proof. For me. The fact that I surpassed everything Derek ever achieved. That was just a side effect. A pleasant one, sure. But not the point. The point was that I'd stopped waiting for someone else to see my value. I'd stopped making myself small. I'd stopped accepting crumbs and calling it partnership. I'd stopped. And in stopping, I'd started everything that mattered.